In the 6th year after the Hijrah, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, sent letters to all the chiefs and kings of countries within reach of Arabia, inviting them to Islam. Some, like Heraclius, the emperor of Rome, read the letter and considered the invitation seriously, but was prevented from embracing Islam by his own weaknesses. He was not even prepared to follow Christianity, much less embrace some unknown Arab merchant, that too at the risk of losing the support of his generals and priests, and possibly losing his throne. Parvez, or Khosrow, the mighty king of Persia, disdainfully tore the letter in shreds in the presence of the envoy who had brought it, and instructed the governor of his Arabian province of Yemen, Badhan, to go and teach a lesson to the madman of Medina who dared to write him such a letter. The Negus of Abyssinia, on the other hand, who had earlier welcomed Muslims to his country and provided them with refuge, was ready to accept the invitation to embrace Islam. Amongst the chiefs to whom the letter was sent was one named Thumama, chief of the Banu Hanifa, in Yamama, in Najd. Thumama, up until then, had heard about Muhammad, but had avoided having any dealings with Muslims one way or another. He was not going to get involved in petty squabbles between the Quraysh and one of their rebellious sons. But when the invitation to join Islam came to him personally, he was outraged. Why, that renegade dares to address me, Thumama, chief of the Banu Hanifa, to join his bunch of nonsensical heretics? How dare he? Who does it take me for? This shall not pass unnoticed. He has been a thorn in the side of the Quraysh for some time. This insult provides me with an excuse to wipe him out. Then we shall hear no more of heretical messages and insulting invitations. From that day, Thumama began scheming and plotting to kill the blessed prophet. He and his men never missed an opportunity to attack him or try to ambush him. Most of the attempts failed because of the vigilance of the blessed prophet's companions, although one attempt would have succeeded if a distant uncle of Thumama's, a Muslim, had not at the last moment got word to the blessed prophet, thereby saving his life. This did not stop Thumama. He continued raiding and attacking the Muslims, and when his men were clever enough to ambush one, they were ordered to inflict on him a slow, painful death. The blessed prophet was left no alternative but to pronounce a death sentence upon Thumama, which meant that if ever he were caught by the Muslims, he would be put to death. The time came for the annual pilgrimage to Mecca. Thumama used to make the journey alone, from Yamama to Mecca. He knew that wherever he stopped on the way, he would be an honored guest. For the times when he had to set up camp alone, he was amply stocked with food and supplies, besides the usual offerings needed for the sacrifice to his idols. One evening he found himself off the usual path, and although he did not realize it, close to Medina. As night fell, he prepared to make camp. He unfolded his bedding, placed a water bag by his head, and built up the small fire he had made to keep off wild animals. Finally, he settled down and was soon asleep. Not far away, a party of Muslims set out on patrol from Medina in search of spies and enemies. These intruders, if given a chance, would plunder, loot, and kill the Muslims, so the blessed Prophet had organized these patrols as a means of protection. The night was as black as ink. There was not a star in the sky, nor moon yet risen. when the patrol came over a hill and spotted the glowing embers of Thumama's campfire. "Approach with caution," advised the leader of the party as they stealthily crept forward. When they had surrounded the camp, the leader called out, "You there! Get up and identify yourself." Thumama leapt up and reached for his sword, but seeing himself surrounded, settled down again. "Your name and identity?" repeated the leader. "Where are you heading? What is your business here?" Thumama was beginning to realize who the men were. He certainly was not going to give his name at any cost. "Where do you come from? Your name?" Still, Thumama refused to answer. "Then, if you won't answer our question, we can only suspect you are here for the wrong reasons. Come with us." Thumama was a fearless man and very proud. He stood up with dignity, folded his belongings, and walked off in front of them as if he were going by his own choice. The patrol was made up of Ansars, who were not at all familiar with the Yemenites. They had no idea that they had arrested a high chief of the Banu Hanifa, one of their fiercest enemies. "If he's a spy," said one, "the blessed Prophet will tell us what to do with him." Arriving at Medina, they led Thumama to the mosque and tied him to one of the pillars. Soon after dawn, the blessed Prophet came from his home to the mosque, noticed the prisoner tied to the pillar, and immediately recognized Thumama. The patrol had been waiting all this time to find out who it was they had arrested. "This is Thumama, chief of the Bani Hanifa of Yamama," he told the companions. If they did not know him by sight, they certainly recognized the name. "He who treacherously murdered our brothers and plotted time after time to kill you?" "Yes," replied the blessed Prophet, and to the surprise of the companions he added, "And I want you to treat him well." He then walked by Thumama without saying a word and began to lead the prayers. Thus Thumama, whether he wanted it or not, witnessed for the first time the Muslim prayers and heard the recitations of the Quran.
وعرضنا جهنم يومئذ للكافرين عرضا الذين كانت أعينهم في غطاء عن ذكري وكانوا لا يستطيعون سمعا أفحسب الذين كفروا أن يتخذوا عبادي من دوني أولياء إنا أعتدنا جهنم للكافرين نزلا.
The first thing the blessed Prophet did upon returning to his quarters, which led directly into the mosque, was to ask his family to prepare the very best food they had, and to milk the she-camel every morning and evening, so that Thumama would have plenty of fresh milk. One of the companions was then asked to untie Thumama's hands so that he could eat some of the delicious food. The companion could not believe his eyes when he saw the meal which the blessed Prophet had ordered for his enemy. "I thought we would be ordered to execute him, not feed him like a king," he exclaimed to the others. After Thumama had eaten his fill, the blessed Prophet came to see him and said, "Now, Thumama, what do you have to say?" Thumama, who had really enjoyed his meal, looked up at the blessed Prophet with a little more respect. "Muhammad, all is well with me. If you kill me, then so be it. If you show me kindness, I shall be grateful. If it is wealth and riches you need, I can provide them. The choice, of course, is yours," answered Thumama in a calm voice. Thumama was prepared to accept his fate with dignity. But the blessed Prophet left him without saying a word, and did not speak to him again for 2 days, during which time he ordered that Thumama be served the very best food and fresh camel milk. On the 3rd day the blessed Prophet approached him again. "Well, Thumama, what have you to say to me?" "Look, Muhammad," he answered, "it is like this. I am prepared to die, if that is what you decide. If you continue treating me as you have been doing, I shall be grateful. And if it is money you want, you know full well that I can provide you with a generous ransom. There, you have it." The blessed Prophet stood looking at him for a moment, and then, without replying, walked off. Another day came and went. Thumama began to feel more like a guest than a prisoner. Not only had he been given excellent meals worthy of the chief that he was, but he had been entertained daily by the gatherings and prayers of the blessed Prophet and his companions. It is not so bad, after all, being a prisoner of this curious man. At least he's a man of honor, from what I can see. The next day the blessed Prophet returned, and once again asked Thumama the same question. "Thumama, what have you to say to me? Thumama, what have you to say now?" Thumama couldn't figure out what the blessed Prophet wanted of him. "Don't you understand what I am saying, Muhammad? I repeat that I am at your service. You may kill me, feed me, or ask for my wealth. It is all the same to me." "All right," answered the blessed Prophet, and turning to the companions ordered, "Let him go." 2 men came forward, untied Thumama's wrists, and released him. Thumama was dumbfounded. What kind of a man was this? Did he not realize that he, Thumama, had scorned his letter, killed his men, and plotted many times to take his life? Thumama took a step forward, and the companions who surrounded him made way for him to walk off, a free man. Upon reaching the outskirts of the city, he was no longer so sure of himself. It was as if his whole world had been turned around, and the direction of his life pointed elsewhere. He felt like a different man. He walked on until he reached a garden with a cool spring and a grove of trees, where he sat down for a moment, trying to collect his thoughts. He had no desire to return to his home, nor did he any longer feel hatred for the blessed Prophet and his followers. He had absolutely no wish to go anywhere except back to where he had just come from, the blessed Prophet's mosque. Leaning over the cool stream, he carefully performed ablutions as he had seen the companions doing. Then, adjusting his clothes as neatly as possible and smoothing down his beard, he walked with a firm step back to the blessed Prophet's mosque. Some companions saw him coming. "Isn't that Thumama coming this way?" they called to the others. Thumama looked neither right nor left. Stepping forward into the assembly, he faced the blessed Prophet and announced, "I, Thumama, chief of the Banu Hanifa of Yamama, declare and
أشهد
witness,
أن
there is
لا
but one
إله
God,
إلا
and you,
الله
Muhammad, are
وأشهد
his
أن
messenger."
محمد رسول الله.
The companions looked at one another with surprise and joy. "Muhammad," continued Thumama, "by God, there was no face on this earth which I hated more than yours, and now there is none that I love more. Of all the religions, yours I despise the most, and now there's none other I would rather give my life for." Yes, and there was no city I abhorred more than this one, your city of Medina, and now I find it the dearest of all cities because it is the home of my beloved Prophet and his companions, Muhammad. And here Thumama's voice dropped, and he became more humble. I have shed the blood of many of your followers. How will I ever atone for that? The blessed Prophet answered simply, There lies no blame on you, Thumama. Indeed, Islam erases all the sins that a person has committed previously. You have been awarded the highest of awards, that of entering Islam. There could not have been greater mercy or grace bestowed upon you. Thumama's face radiated joy and gratefulness at these words. Placing his hand on his breast, he vowed, By God, from now on I pledge my life, my property, and my soul to help you bring idol worshippers to Islam, and those that refuse I shall pursue more fiercely than I did your followers. He now dropped his hand and resumed in a more normal tone, Messenger of God, when your patrol arrested me, I was going on pilgrimage to Mecca. What shall I do now? You shall go on pilgrimage, answered the Prophet, but not to the idols, which you now know to be worthless. Come, I shall show you how to perform the pilgrimage according to Islam. And so saying, the blessed Prophet instructed Thumama in the verses and actions and postures for the occasion. Shortly after this, Thumama arrived in Mecca. As he made his way through the streets to the heart of the town, he announced loudly what he had learned from the blessed Prophet. I come at your
لبيك
bidding, O
اللهم
Lord. I
لبيك
come at your bidding. I
لبيك
come at your
لا
bidding.
شريك
There
لك
is none
لبيك
like unto
إن
you. I
الحمد
come at your
والنعمة لك
bidding.
والملك
All praise and
لا
bounty belong
شريك
to
لك
you, and the kingdoms of
لبيك
the heavens and earth
اللهم
too, and there is
لبيك
none like unto
لبيك
you.
لا شريك لك
In so doing,
لبيك
Thumama was one of
إن
those Muslims
الحمد
who entered Makkah
والنعمة
openly
لك
declaring his
والملك
intention of performing the
لا
lesser
شريك
pilgrimage
لك
of Kaaba, the
لبيك
Umrah.
اللهم
What a stir,
لبيك
Thumama's cry
لبيك
caused in
لا
Makkah that
شريك
day.
لك
Men rushed from
لبيك
their houses to see
إن
what the commotion
الحمد
was. Some,
والنعمة
when they heard
لك
the announcement,
والملك
came brandishing their
لا
swords
شريك
and
لك
threatened to attack him. But Thumama
لبيك
completely ignored
اللهم
their threats.
لبيك
As one young man lunged at
لبيك
him, an elder
لا
of the Quraysh
شريك لك
stopped his hand.
لبيك
Idiot, he
إن
cried.
الحمد
Do you not
والنعمة
see
لك
who it is? It is
والملك
Thumama himself
لا
of the Banu
شريك
Hanifa.
لك
If you damage a hair of his
لبيك
beard, the
اللهم
grain supplies to
لبيك
Makkah will be stopped.
لبيك لا
Some of
شريك
the elders approached Thumama and tried to reason with him. Look, Thumama, what has happened to you? We cannot believe that you have given up the religion of your forefathers. How did you get led astray like this? Thumama turned on them with head held high. Indeed, I have found the best of all religions, Muhammad's religion, the religion of Islam, and furthermore, for he had seen his advantage, if you all do not join me in the worship of the one God, not a single grain of wheat from Yamama will grace your tables, for I shall instruct my tribe to block all supplies to Makkah. This is exactly what the Quraysh feared. So after shaking their heads and muttering among themselves, they said, Oh, very well. Go ahead then, Thumama. We do not want you to block the grain supplies, but allow us at least to cover our ears while you shout the heresy Muhammad has taught you. And so they let him pass. Thumama performed the Umrah as he had been taught to do by the blessed Prophet, praying to the one
لبيك
God instead of to
لا
the many
شريك
gods he had
لك
served before.
لبيك
But he had
إن
noticed that
الحمد
not one Quraysh had
والنعمة
come to
لك
join him in prayers
والملك
or to announce their
لا
intention to
شريك
follow
لك
the new religion.
لبيك
Thumama was a
اللهم
man of his word and
لبيك
always kept his
لبيك
promises,
لا
whatever they were,
شريك
and to whoever they were made. So upon arriving in Yamama, he gave orders to stop all shipment of grain to Mecca. Gradually, the blockade began to take effect. Supplies of grain began to dwindle, and prices rose steadily day by day. Finally, there was no grain to be had in Mecca, nor any bread on any table. Even the wealthy Quraysh began to go hungry. The people of Mecca began to panic. If Thumama kept this up, even the children would go hungry and eventually starve to death. While conscious of the persecution and torture which they had brought upon the blessed Prophet and his people, they were forced to swallow their pride and asked him to intervene. They sent the following message to Medina. You try to always set the example of being kind to relatives. You urge the young to be merciful, yet you have not only slain the fathers of this city with the sword, you would allow their children to die of hunger. We implore you to stop the blockade, or our children will starve. As a result of this, the blessed Prophet wrote to Thumama, and Thumama, only because the blessed Prophet urged him to, ordered the supply of grain to be continued. Only because of the blessed Prophet's order do I break my word, he said. This was an example of how the blessed Prophet showed mercy and kindness to his enemies, how he won the heart of a die-hard enemy like Thumama.